Hey guys, this is Sean from Southwestern Studios. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the Sony A6500's best portrait lens. Now, before we do that, I want to direct you over here. This is the A7R2 with the 85mm 1.4 G Master lens. This is the ultimate setup. You want ultimate resolution, you want ultimate picture quality, this is what you want. But there is a very high price, and that price is it's really expensive. So instead of going that route, we're going to go for a more wallet-friendly option that still packs a punch and is really powerful. With that being said, what I have in my hand right here is the Sony A6500, mated to the Zeiss 55mm 1.8. Now, I'm going to answer the question as to why this makes this lens the best portrait one for this specific camera, and not the A6300 and not the A6000 series, but I'll answer that a little bit later on. But first, let's take a look at it. As you can see, the aesthetics of it are really nice. This lens looks like it's kind of made for this camera, and there's not much to this lens. You really just have the metal body. You really only have the focusing ring. We have the blue Zeiss logo, and on top we have the details of the lens. That's it. It might be a little bit long for some, but you can easily rectify this by taking the lens hood off, and that really has its length. And by putting the lens hood back on, we get protection from bumps and scratches and whatnot. So it works really well. All right, so number one, the first reason why this is such a good portrait option for this one is the fact that it actually does look real well. The aesthetics look good. Now, as a photographer, you probably wouldn't care because you're caring more about what the image is going to look like, the image quality, but others might not think that way. And if they see a professional looking lens on this nice looking camera, you know, it's a little bit small, but it still looks good, they tend to be more happy with the work that you do. You know, they won't be second guessing you because this looks like a seriously good piece of hardware. Looks really good. So that's number one. That's really a non-issue, but that is something to take into consideration. All right. Number two is the fact that now we have in-body stabilization. Now, this lens isn't stabilized. This is meant to go with the A7 series, and the A7R2 series all have in-body stabilization. Now, the 6000 and the 6300 crop sensor cameras, they don't have stabilization. So the 6500 does, and that makes this a prime candidate for this camera, because now we have stabilization in this lens, or in the body I should say, but this lens is stabilized now, the combo stabilized. So you can shoot a little bit lower shutter speed if you need to, and we get all into that in another video. But that's reason number two, is that the in-body stabilization really makes this a joy to work with and shoot with. All right, number three, the Zeiss image quality. The 55 is no slouch when it comes to sharpness, handling aberrations, things like that. It's really, really good. I think only the 50 1.4 from Sony, the new one, gets better image quality than this. And this is a relatively old lens. It's been around for a while, but it still holds up its own. Now, because it's so sharp, it really does resolve the 24 megapixels of the sensor very well, and you're gonna get really, really good image quality in such a small, compact package, which is what we're kind of looking for in a mirrorless setup anyway. Nobody wants to get a small camera like this and then end up having to put this monstrosity on there when they can have a relatively good setup with this. That's also very powerful. So again, number three is the fact that we have this setup like this, and it gives you really, really, really good image quality for its relatively compact size. Number four. Now, number four is actually the most important one on this list, in my opinion, and the reason why is because if we're doing portraiture, good portrait lenses usually require you to have a fairly long focal length. Now, 85 is the go-to standard for normal portraiture. It's this one right here. So if we were to slap a 50 1.8 on this one, it'll work out to about 77 millimeters, which is okay, and it'll get you good results, but it will limit you in such ways. Now, This is a 55mm lens. When put onto this crop sensor camera, it effectively becomes 82.5mm, which gets far closer to this right here. So when using this lens and going to this lens and vice versa, you're gonna have about the same focal range and focal length, and that's the sweet spot for portraitures. So this 55 specifically really hits the spot in working with this 6500. Again, this becomes a really good like 1-2 punch kind of combination. And there are many other reasons too as well. It's good for low light because it has a fairly it's a 1-point aperture, fairly wide aperture, and it's, again, the sharpness. There's plenty of reasons why, but mainly we have, number one is the fact that it has in-body stabilization. Number two, it looks quite good. Number three, the image quality is amazing and off the charts. And then again, number four, we have a focal length that matches up quite closely to this 85mm G Master, except not only is it half the price, but it's half the size as well too. So if you compare the sizes, you're really gonna see that this camera is quite small. So for my next video, I'm actually gonna go out there and we're gonna take some shots and I'm gonna do a photo shoot with this specific one. I'm gonna come back, we're gonna take it through Lightroom, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what the results are gonna be. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later and have a good rest of the day. Take care.